So hey everyone, we got Bad Sports in the house. How's it going, brother?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I've been excited for this all day. I was on with the Mo last night, and then yeah, just been busy with the devs today, going back and forth on the UI, a couple tweaks, and then yeah, just super hyped to be here and to explain how Flux works to everyone.
This is yeah, interesting. I'm really looking forward to this, and I think also the viewers are looking forward to this to understand it more. I mean, you guys are building and building. I mean, I'm just seeing right now you have Bad Sports Flux, and then underneath that you have Blaze Inferno Flux. So how has it been so far? Why the building? You're building a lot.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's been a few tweets from Jake over the past months, and builders tend to build. I've got the bug. I'm a super motivated person, so when I get involved in something and there's something I'm passionate about, then I don't stop. I sleep probably 3 or 4 hours a night, and it's constantly on my mind. What can I do next? What value can I bring to the community? How can I help? Yeah, I just love it. I absolutely completely passionate about it. So that's why.
That's fantastic, man. So I'm seeing more and more people coming in. Hey, Rich Laden. My man Rich is always around. Shout out to you, Rich. We got Nobody Investor. What's up, guys? Hey, man. Hey, Nobody Investor. How's it going? All right. So here we got the Mo in the house as well. He dumped the RFK speech for this. So so there you have it. A shout out to Shady. I finally made it to a live. Let's fucking go. I think I saw his comment regarding yeah, like he's always missing it because he's in Australia, I believe. So yeah, shout out to you, Shady. I don't know if this is early morning for you or I don't know exactly. In Australia right now. Do you know Bad Sports? No,
No,
right?
I'm not sure. But I've seen
Yeah.
Shady's been around for a while. I see him. Yeah, he's active in the community, so nice to see him here.
Yeah, very active in the community. All right, so I mean, I think we have yeah, more and more viewers are coming in. I think we might as well just get it started. Shady is saying it's 5 a.m., bro. So all right, man. That was that's early, man. Shady is determined to find out what about Flux. So I am going to share my screen as usual. So guys, yeah, we got Buzz Sports in the house here. So today, yeah, we're gonna be talking about his new project, and yeah, they're also on Twitter and Telegram. I have here the QR code which you can just scan with your phone, and yeah, follow them on X or on Telegram. I think if you have any other questions, if any questions have not been mentioned in this interview, you can go ahead on Telegram and check it out. And as usual, spank that like button
Yep.
and click subscribe and follow, and with the bell button. So the general agenda, as I used to, yeah, I like like all my interviews. So we're gonna go first about we're gonna do a quick intro about Flux, and then on the second part we're gonna talk about the Flux auction, and then lastly we're gonna talk about the Flux liquidity pool and the buy and burn. So probably the first question to you, Bad Sports. Can you give me an elevator pitch for Flux?
Yeah. So Mo asked me for an elevator pitch last night, and I kind of just got super hyped and started going off on a tangent for a few minutes. But I was thinking about this earlier on today, and it's almost like, so imagine Blaze and Inferno paid thousands and thousands of dollars to have some high-end artificial insemination, right? And produce this absolute pure breed of a human, all the best parts of each put together and put into one specific place. And that is Inferno. That is obviously not Inferno. That is Flux. So it's basically we picked all the best things all the best mechanics, all the best tokenomics from both, and paired them together and produced Flux. And I think that's the best way to look at it, because we love the auctions, we love the distribution, but we also love the intense buy pressure and the buy and burn and the deflation that you get from Inferno. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, are you trying to tell me that it's Blaze is the dad, and Inferno is the mom, and Flex is the new kid in the ground?
Something like that. But the new kid supports the mum and dad for the rest of eternity, right?
Oh, is that it? Right. That's fantastic. All right. So I think maybe, yeah, that explains somewhat a little bit about Flux, but let's really jump into the Flux. Flux. So is it Flux?
Yeah, Flux.
Flux. Okay.
That'll be my northern English accent there, giving
Okay.
you sending you off on a Flux.
Flux. All right. No worries. So let's jump straight in, right? I mean, first of all, Flux, as you just mentioned earlier, it's a auction based project.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about directly on the day one, because day one is a bit different than all the other days. So essentially, day one is a bit special. But I mean, essentially, it's an auction system. So could you explain the viewers here how this day one differs probably from the rest of the days? But yeah, go ahead. This is day one.
Yeah. So on day one, we use the value from day one to bootstrap the LP for starters, and then all the 100% or all of the value of the TitanX that comes in on day one goes through to the auction distribution. So we've got two parts to it. So you've got the auction distribution and you've got the auto buy and stake. So the first 24 hours, day one, 100% of the TitanX that comes in is allocated towards the auction distribution side. And that's the key difference, is that when you turn it over into day two, that value is split accordingly. But day one, 100%, all that TitanX is distributed into the auction side of the protocol. What that does mean is that anyone coming in on day one has the benefit of their value only going into that auction. So you can essentially get a larger share of that pool. Whereas if you come in on day two and beyond, which is all by design, then you end up in a forced buy pressure scenario. So there's quite a bit of game theory about getting in day one. But obviously the auctions are there every day, so there's no rush. But yeah, day one's very special. I think people are really gonna when they get their head around that, they're really gonna see the benefit of jumping in day one and kickstarting the system.
Okay, so probably just to understand a little bit better is, so on day one, you as a user, you can send in your TitanX to the Flux smart contract, and there is going to be 75 million Flux, which is going to be distributed. All of that 75 billion Flux will be distributed back to the users. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Perfect.
Okay, and on day two, not all of the Flux tokens will be distributed, but we're going to talk about that. But essentially, the only on first day 100% of the available tokens will be distributed back to the user. And yeah, and then essentially there's going to be some of that TitanX goes to the TitanX distribution. We're going to talk about that a bit later. And there's going to be an LP creation as well on day one. So you have 75 billion Flux tokens, which will be going to the user. And then you have the TitanX distribution, which we're going to talk about later. And then you have the LP creation. So essentially, this is just the day one. But I think more interesting is going to be day two, because that's where all the other stuff are coming in to kick in. So probably you can just go a little bit here regarding how the day two plays out.
Yeah, so just on one point there on day one, Mike.
Yes.
So on day one, there is 75 billion Flux that are up for grabs in the auction, right? Yes. So that is also the same for day two. There's still 75 billion Flux in the auction that's emitted. but it's the value of the TitanX which is what changes. So if you come in day one and day two, you still have the opportunity to find your share of the 75 billion. So the amount of Flux tokens doesn't change from day one to day two, just to make that clear.
Okay, then I think maybe I have more questions regarding that, because when we talk around on day two, but and also another thing which is essentially different to Blaze is that when you get into the auction, you only get your Flux token 24 hours later. So it's not at the end of the auction, but it's actually 24 hours later, whenever you have entered the auction.
Yes, so the auction still lasts. So the overall auction, the protocol days still last 24 hours. So they still tick over. So you have 24 hours to participate. But as you rightfully say, there'll be a timestamp when you enter, and you will not receive, or you will not be able to claim your tokens until 24 hours after your specific time when you entered that pool.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a bit more different, I guess. That. All right. I mean, we just going to jump to day two, because that's when things start getting a bit more interesting. And yeah, probably just go ahead and explain how day two is a bit more different than, let's say, day one.
Yeah. So let's play it out. So day one's happened, LP's formed, and there's 100% of the value that came into day one is being pushed forward into the various allocations, which we'll get to shortly. But once you come into day two, you have a different mechanic where if you come in with, say, $1,000 to allocate to Flux auction, in day two, 50% of that value is used in the auction distribution, which is shown there, spread out between the different percentages to the various locations. So the interesting part is the other 50% is a forced buy. So it will automatically, part of the transaction, it's a single transaction for the user from the front end, and 50% will then take that TitanX and it will auto buy Inferno from the TitanX Inferno pool, and it'll swap to Flux, and that will be max staked. And that's part to come into the auction on day two. That will be part of that transaction. You'll have the smart contract will force you to do that. That can get really interesting, as every single transaction or every participation in the auction applies 50% of that value to buy pressure on the Flux token.
All right. Yeah, that's. I think that's definitely interesting. So, I mean, probably let's just stick to this, the auto buy here, essentially, because this is somewhat interesting, I think. So, if you as the user send in your TitanX, 50% of that. So, let's say, I don't know, you send in whatever 1 billion TitanX, 50% of that, so 500 million, it will just auto buys Flux through. First, it will buy first Inferno, because that's where TitanX Inferno is tied to TitanX. So it buys that first, and then buys Flux, and then it max takes it for you, essentially. So it's still.
The max stake is interesting, because essentially the idea is to lock, or to take these Flux tokens off the market from the LP. So the max stake can almost be looked at as a burn. It's locked off the market for 2,888 days, and those stakes actually auto max stake again. So they never come back on the auction. They never come back on the market. The user can never claim them back, but all along the way of those, almost 3,000 days and more, you will earn from the reward pools. So you will essentially be adding buy pressure. You'll be burning the token that you love, because you've clearly come into the auction because you want to get it. So you'll add to buying, you'll add to burning it, but you'll also be rewarded for doing so. So there's a reward mechanism there for participating and fueling the protocol.
Okay, I see. So okay, then so essentially 50% of that does exactly that. And let's now go back to regarding here on day 2 with so we had on day 1. So day 2, there's going to be the same available tokens, Flux tokens available on day 2 as well.
Yes. So for the way we've so this is another difference to how the Blaze auction works, is that the emissions of the token stays the same for 7 days. So it drops weekly. So you'll have sort of 7 days of opportunity. The same, you'll have 7 days to come into the auction and auction for the same amount of tokens than you would from day 1 through to day 7. And every 7 days, it's going to drop by 1.2%. So every week, you're going to drop, the emission rate will drop 1.2%. So it's it encourages to come in earlier because there's a larger pool to go for, but it still gives you that weekly, that weekly phase where it's a fair distribution per week instead of per day.
Okay, understand. So now the question is, so still there is going to be 75 billion to distribute on day 2 as well. That's is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I see. So the only difference, let's say, to day 1 is there is no 50% auto buys of Flux and staking it, essentially, right?
Yeah, it's so you can come in day 1 and all of the value that you've got allocated to this protocol on that day will be it gives you a larger share or a larger potential share because all of the value you have is allocated to your share rate in the pool. So yeah, then when it goes to, when you turn over to day 2, that's when things get a lot different.
Gotcha. Because then 50% of that actually buys the Flux token, and Max takes it. So only 50% gets you. You distribute of that to 75 billion of Flux tokens essentially on day 2. Anyway, I think that's pretty much clear on my end. So if you have any questions, let me know. But I think this is pretty clear now. I think for me, it wasn't as clear before. So I think hopefully for the viewers, it's a bit more clear as well. Let's talk about the. I think I saw a comment earlier on, and they were asking regarding the arbitrage opportunity here. So can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, the opportunity there is that, and this is an important item as to why we decided to make the claims available 24 hours after you specifically come into the auction. So it gives a more distributed, evenly distributed emission through the day, the tokens, but it also gives that an arbitrary or an arbitrage opportunity where people can come in at different times and there'll be different prices. There's the 50% of the TitanX going into the chart at different times through the day, which can incentivize people to try and come in early. So you can try and get out before other people come in, or maybe you're going to come in later and there's a stronger price movement later on in that 24-hour period. So it definitely adds a lot more game theory to the whole auction system, as opposed to, being able to wait till the very end, come in and then try and escape, with a profit at the end of the 24 hours. This adds a lot more interesting game theory to when you come in, where's the price at? Where will the price be at in 18 hours when you're, 24 hours after you come in, but maybe 18 hours during the day, there's a stronger price. There's a lot of interesting points to think about.
All right, yeah, I think that's definitely very interesting to see here how this is gonna work out. I mean, also the other thing is like since you're buying Inferno before you buy Flux, is you're gonna push the Inferno price up as well through this.
Yes, and that's one of our sort of focal points with Flux is the LP pairing with Inferno, and the fact that we can apply quite a lot of buy pressure to Inferno through Flux, through the different buy and bear mechanics. And as we've seen recently with how hyperdeflationary tokens in TitanX ecosystem can be affected by the TitanX movements and the buys. We think that these buy and bear mechanics on Inferno could be really push some good buy pressure in it, and it would affect it would essentially drag up the price of all the tokens that are paired with it.
All right, yeah, that's definitely interesting. I think for now I understood the arbitrage and obviously now how this works as well. So probably let's go now a little bit more to the distribution side of things here, because so 50% of your TitanX on day 2 will buy Flux and max stake it for you, and then you can participate in the reward pools essentially. So this is it's a forced staking essentially of your tokens. But the other thing is here is now the distribution here. Probably let's talk a bit about the distribution here. So the other 50% of it gets distributed, and then can you talk about these few percentages and essentially also probably talk more about the Bill on TitanX staking vault, which is I thought very interesting move from your side.
Yeah, I think that for me that's one of the things that I really want to focus on with the future builds, and Flux is just the start of where we're going with that. I'm speaking to quite a few people in the background on different things and how we can help all the build on TitanX protocols. So that's really interesting. But with Flux, yeah, the initial thought process was just to ban the TitanX, and then discussions with Eric and hearing Eric on stream a lot and understanding how powerful the DragonX vault can be, really got me to a point where I understood that was a much better way to distribute the TitanX. So yeah, so you got 4% of all the TitanX that comes in from every transaction in the auction will be sent to the DragonX vault. And the reason why that's so powerful is the DragonX vault is a max stake that reoccurs, and all the Ethereum that the DragonX vault or the DragonX stake is rewarded with is then used to buy and burn TitanX and DragonX. So the reason that's stronger is because it's using Ethereum to add buy pressure to both liquidity pools, right? Instead of just sending the TitanX to a burn address, which doesn't, it helps the deflationary aspect and it takes it off market, but it doesn't add that potential buy pressure, which I think is fantastic. And it was really cool last night. I had a few back and forths in the Telegram about this. People are skeptical of why it's a better move. And I just tagged Jake and said, look, Jake, can you put this to bed? And he jumped straight in the chat and he said, yep, better move, great move. This is why. And so that was really interesting to see him really backing that. And I think more protocols are going to start going that route as well, which could be really powerful for the system. So yeah, not only the DragonX vault, we then send 2% of all the TitanX to the Helios treasury. Massive fan of Helios, love the dude. He's done a lot for the system, and they're the two key players for me. So that's why that was the choice, was to send the TitanX to both of their protocols to assist their systems and also help bolster the entire ecosystem.
Yep. All right. I think this is interesting. I think as of probably if you ask me regarding the staking vault, since if you are thinking if your project is about burning TitanX, you then might as well just send it to DragonX vault or Helios treasury essentially, because at the end of the day is like if you burn the TitanX, it's going to be out of the supply. But if you send it to DragonX Vault, it's also going to be out of the supply. But if you are tied to the liquidity pool of TitanX, that ETH is going to pump you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like there's no point of burning the TitanX really, if that's what you really want to do. So it makes, like, for me, essentially, I think this is the best move ever. And also you're gonna be climbing up the ranks on TitanX Hub as well with this.
Yeah, just on that, them percentages need to be swapped around as well. Mike, just so you.
All right, I see. It's the other way around, yeah. All right, we're gonna do this live, guys, live on stream. All right,
Nice.
yeah, I think it makes sense for sure. To definitely send that one. So I think it's just a better move that way, really, because burning, yeah, sure, but I mean, you might as well really send it to the DragonX Vault or Helios Vault per se, because exactly, yeah. Anyway, so 8% goes to Genesis, 6% goes to the Bill on Titan staking vault, and the other thing as well is, like, if you on TitanX Hub, the default order is how much you've burned TitanX.
Yep.
So I mean, that's why I mean, right now I think Blaze doesn't burn anything, so that's why there's just a big zero there. So I guess you're gonna be picking up the slack, and you're gonna be chasing DragonX to be, or TitanX per se, right? Do you think you're gonna beat DragonX?
Hey, look, this thing can really do things, and you know what's interesting is it's an auction system, so it's every 24 hours. It's you know, it's not one-off mint phase. It's not a weekly mint. It's every single day for the next 8 years. You know, these auctions run for 8 years. So I don't know. Let's see. I think it's definitely going to overtake in the short term. I don't know, but I think medium to long, I can see it happening for sure.
That would be definitely very, yeah, that would be interesting to see. And obviously TitanX Hub will be tracking those numbers, and you're going to be climbing up the ranks of that order. So I'm looking forward to that. So let's talk now about the Flux staking, essentially, right? So I think we talked about the 50% TitanX auto buys and max takes it. So 40% of the TitanX coming in goes to the reward pools. So let's, first of all, there's the voluntary staking, but also there's this involuntary staking, essentially, which is the max staking here. So probably, can you explain first of all, like, the staking mechanics, and also the voluntary staking and the different payout pools?
Yeah, so I'll go into the auto buy and stake first. So yeah, so as we've covered, 50% of the TitanX that you deposit after day 2 is then auto bought and then staked, right? Max staked. So through that process, the user who comes into that auction will be eligible for the rewards from the 8-day pools, the 28-day pools, and the 88-day pools. So that's from the auto. That's from the, let's call it forced staking, right? It sounds a bit aggressive, but it's the easiest way to explain it. So the forced staking, you are not eligible for the 777 pool, but you get rewards from all the other free pools for, you know, almost 3,000 days. So you know, like the Blaze staking, every 8 days you're going to get a payout. And then the difference here is we've got just a different day. We've got a 28-day and the 88, as opposed to the 288 what we have in Blaze. The reason for the different days is we initially wanted to keep the pools closer together and more tight, with the exception of the 777, which is a bit further out. But yeah, keep them tight, keep everyone engaged. You know, keep them rewards. You know, them sticky rewards. You know, them payouts. You know, people really love the staking payouts in the TitanX ecosystem. So you're gonna, yeah, like I'll just reiterate how it works. So you are forced to buy, which pumps your bags because you want the token anyway because you're in the auction. You're forced to buy, pumps the bag. You burn the supply, but you get rewarded for it every 8 days, every 28 day, and every 88 day. So that's how the forced staking works. If you buy tokens off the market or your auction tokens that you've participated for, you can still stake those tokens as you would in any staking protocol. You can come in and you can do a minimum stake of 90 days, or you can do a maximum stake of 2,888 days. So if you do the max stake, and it must be a max stake, it has to be a 2,888 day stake, you will be rewarded with all the pools, including the 777 day payout pool. If you do a 2,887 day stake, you will not be eligible for that payout. You will only get the first free there on the screen. So I think that's quite important to understand.
Yeah, I think that's very clear. And probably another thing to mention is the minimum staking period is 90 days, and the maximum staking days 2,888 days, and the share rate decreases 1.26% every 8 days. I think that's also important. And I mean, let's talk about the percentage distribution here, or to the different pools. Like, what was the reason for you to pick the 38% for the 8 day? I guess is like that's going to be filled in the beginning quite a bit.
Yeah, look, it's like anything, people want to see that quick check, that quick payment coming back to them, and you've been forced to stake your tokens. You 50% of your value has been forced staked. So you can, well, not you can, but the idea is that there's a possibility that you can ROI back on that 50% very quickly within the first few 8-day payouts. So that's the reason for the really heavy front end payout.
Gotcha. Okay. So, all right. I think this is pretty much clear. Is there anything else you would like to mention? If something is not clear here, I think if they, and by the way, if the viewers out there, if you have questions, let me know. I'm seeing already here Ahmed is saying the share rate increases every 8 day. Fire. And then he's saying Flux tokenomics are insane. Great protocol. So complex. Feed the dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, we're feeding it. We're feeding the dragon, all right.
Feeding the dragon, my friends. And yeah, I like this, feeding the dragon. And this is why TitanX is different, builders supporting builders. Yep. I think that's pretty good. And Ali is saying Inferno BNB back up to 275K. Hopefully you're checking it on TitanX sub portfolio page, Ali.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
just quickly, while that's been while he's commented there, we are in the fifth mint cycle of Inferno. It's active at the minute, and it's going pretty well. We're heading up to 2.2 trillion TitanX deposited. I can see that ticking over probably while we're on stream. So yeah, another good start for that for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. What is the current rate of Inferno right now? How much would you get back for your TitanX?
It's 0.8, I believe.
0.8. Okay.
Yeah. One TitanX is 0.8 Inferno today.
Fair enough. All right, that's pretty good. So yeah, so I think this is fairly clear now. I think we talked about like how day one, how that acts, and then we went over to day two, how that works, and then now we are we talked about the payout pools. And then let's go to the next point, which is the Flux liquidity pool creation on day one, because I think that's also important for people to understand out there, and potentially for some of the builders out there who might want to also maybe get some ideas how some of these things work. So I mean, right here, I was just showing exactly what happens in the day one. Is like you as a user, you send in your TitanX, and then you get your Flux 24 hours later after you have entered the auction. And then here, can you explain now how this Flux Inferno liquidity pool, how that gets created? I think I've shown here in the diagram, but probably you can go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, so just while I'm going to jump into there. I've just had a WhatsApp message from Scott, so he's actually backstage. If you want to pull him up, he'd like to jump in and add some value to this as well.
Hey Scotty, how's it going?
Hey gents, how are you doing?
Not too bad. All is well. Welcome to the stream. You're talking to the world.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me up. Sorry, I'm just walking around with a family at the minute, but I wanted to jump on. So I'm here if you've got any questions. What was we talking about? Sorry, I missed the first bit of the stream, but now you're talking about the liquidity pool formation of Flux and Inferno. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what we decided to do here is a bit more in line with the way we did it with Blaze, slightly different. So now when 50 billion TitanX comes in, that's paired with 35 billion Flux. So that gives Flux the price of starting price, obviously, of the LP of 1.43 times the price of TitanX. So when that LP is first formed, the Flux you get in return is worth 1.43 the price of TitanX. I'm sorry if it's getting quite noisy where I am. I'm in quite a busy street, so I apologise for that.
There's a bit of background noise for sure.
It's a bit noisy.
Yeah. So if you want, I'll find somewhere quieter, Josh. If you want to, bad spots. If you want to carry on, and then I'll find somewhere a bit quieter to come in a bit.
No. Drop down, man, and I'll take over. I want to get Scott involved because a lot of these tokenomics and mechanics we've gone back and forth a lot together over the past few weeks, and Scott's really deeply involved in this. So I really do want to make sure he's involved and people hear his voice and find confidence that there's other people involved in the team and just to for people to get to know him as well. So but I'll take over where he left off. So as Scott was saying there, the first 50 billion TitanX comes in, very similar to many of the TitanX protocols that have launched. They bootstrap the first deposits of the TitanX, and which forms the LP. So 50 billion comes in, and that buys Inferno from the TitanX Inferno LP, and it pairs with 35 billion Flux. The 35 billion Flux is minted from the contract, because I do get a lot of questions. Where does that Flux come from? And it's from the mint contract. The contract mints it. So it's a one-time mint. It never happens again. It's specifically for the LP. So I'd like to make that quite clear because there's quite a bit of confusion around how that works. And we've set the ratio to allow for the price of the Inferno token, as Scott said, to be 1.43 times the current TitanX price. So whatever the TitanX price is when the LP forms, the price per Flux token will be 1.43 times that. So we've set that ratio through various calculations to try and get something which seems appropriate for the auction system.
Okay, but I mean the liquidity pool is Flux Inferno, right? And not there's no TitanX there, right?
Yeah, so it buys Inferno, the contract mints Flux, and the Inferno and Flux is paired.
Okay, but the thing is, like, the price of Inferno fluctuates, obviously. So at that time, you wouldn't even know what the price is here currently at that time.
Yeah, it would be.
You don't know exactly how much Inferno you're going to receive, right?
Exactly. The TitanX buy will push the Inferno price up, but it'll be within some close percentage of what we've planned for. So because the trade happens instantly, right? So it will push the price up, but how we plan it will be around 1.4x the price.
Okay, but I mean the question is, 50 billion TitanX will get, like, whatever the price of Inferno on that day is, it's priced in TitanX. So you might receive, depending where the price is, you might receive like more or less. So you cannot, I don't know, it's like, I mean, there's no way you can plan to receive the exact amount of Inferno for you to pair it with it, right?
No, there's no. Yeah, there's no exact amount of Inferno, but it'll be the dollar value amount that's paired with. So whatever that dollar value amount of Inferno is, will still be paired with the 35 billion Flux.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but
The Inferno token could be less or more Inferno tokens, but the dollar value that's pushed in will be the dollar value of 50 billion TitanX when that trade happens.
Okay. Anyway, I think maybe we're just gonna get bogged down here because I think this is fair enough. I mean, this is how it's going to work. This is how the liquidity pool will be created. So the smart contract will mint 35 billion Flux, and it will be paired with Inferno. That Inferno gets bought by the first 50 billion, which came on the day one of the mint. Another question is here as well. If I remember correctly, Inferno original LP was actually Inferno with Blaze and not with TitanX. So how was this pool created, and how can you be sure that there's going to be even enough Inferno for you to buy?
How was the TitanX Inferno pool created? Is that the question?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a community. It's a community LP. There is a portion of that LP that has been provided by the Inferno team, but a large percentage of that was or could only be described as supplied by a benevolent whale who has publicly spoken about providing liquidity for tokens. Essentially it's still a community pool. So, it's community members providing LP. But the original smart contract pool is the Inferno Blaze pool. And we had like a community we took part in a community outreach, and we tried to get as many people to participate in that, including the 8 founders of Inferno. And that was to allow for people to sell back from Inferno through into TitanX. We was noticing that there was a lot of people coming in for the ARB, for the Inferno mint, and then selling back into Blaze and then back into TitanX. So we had like this drive to try and get as much, a much thicker LP for the Inferno TitanX pair.
All right, yeah, fair enough. Another question from Ninja Magoo 22: will a 50 billion TitanX buy of Inferno have a massive slippage?
Not massive. It'll be there'll be a percentage of slippage there. You'll probably see we did the same thing with the Inferno launch, the Blaze. So the slippage on the actual buy, we didn't really lose much value on there. I think it was a grand or so from what we originally expected to receive back. The price shot up, came back down. Normal market behavior, but it's the pool's a lot thicker than the Blaze. The Blaze pool was when we launched Inferno, so it's not something that is a huge concern. It will incur slippage, but we'll have slippage. We'll have admin privileges for the slippage to make sure that goes through and the LP's formed, and there's no stoppers there. So yeah.
All right. I think Scotty just wrote a message, so I'm gonna add him back in. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, gents. I'll just check. Do you hear me a bit better now, or is it still a bit too loud?
Yeah, that's much better, friend.
Lovely.
Were you listening regarding the liquidity pool creation?
Yes, I was trying to get somewhere a bit quieter, but I pretty much caught all of it. I think Bad Sports has explained that pretty much dead on, really.
All right. I mean, I think the only question I really had was that you guys cannot know what the price of Inferno is going to be on that day when this pool gets created.
Yeah,
So you can't
I
really know how much Inferno you're going to receive essentially.
yeah, that's to me. I'd like to speak to you about this anyway, because to me that's irrelevant really, because it's a TitanX price. It's a TitanX buying Inferno, then whatever Inferno price is, then obviously is paired. So if we get, I'd like, if you don't mind, I'd like to have a deep conversation about that offline, because obviously there is something there, and I'd love to have a chat about it.
Yeah, no worries. I think we can definitely do that. But yeah, I mean, essentially, like what I'm probably trying to say, but we can definitely talk this private as well. It's yes, sure, the pricing is like, but the pairing is there. But how much you receive, Inferno you receive with your TitanX fluctuates.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. But on that day, we're saying on that day, that's what it is. So obviously it will change, the same as everything will, the same as a Flux price will, a TitanX price will, Inferno price will. But just as it's created, obviously we can't look forward into the future past that point and know what the price is going to be. But just at that point where that liquidity pool is formed, that's what it is.
All right. I mean, fair enough. I mean, because the reason why I'm asking this was more regarding, because you had already mentioned what the ratio is going to be, but the ratio, you can only know about the ratio if you know how much Inferno you're going to receive, really.
Yeah, so it's the ratio when that LP's formed. So it's not like
whatever
Inferno.
it's going to be.
Yeah, it's not like Inferno where you get a 1-to-1 ratio and a 0.95 ratio. It's different to that, as you know. That's a ratio on the LP formation. So, but you've got a point, and I need to probably go back to the white paper and maybe reword that a little bit, and then make sure that's a bit clearer.
All right. No worries. I mean, I think just my point is essentially going to be the pairing was going to be 35 billion of Flux, and whatever you're going to receive on that day with 50 billion TitanX.
Yeah, so but the ratio we're mentioning is the TitanX ratio, obviously, not the Inferno ratio. We obviously have got no idea what the Inferno ratio will be, because it depends on the price on the day.
Yep.
So that's why we're mentioning the TitanX Flux ratio and not the Inferno Flux ratio.
All right, fair enough. Okay. But the thing is, like, okay, you mentioned that ratio, but that the liquidity pool will not be that ratio.
No, the value of TitanX and the value of Inferno will be pretty much the same. So the liquidity pool ratio. So we're telling you the ratio of what our liquidity pool is if it was TitanX. So I 100% understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Because if the liquidity pool was TitanX, then it's like fair enough. Then you know exactly how much TitanX you have, but your pool is going to be with tied to Inferno, and that was my my misunderstanding there, because you're mentioning one thing, but the end is going to be different.
I totally understand. I suppose because you're putting TitanX in, that's why we was mentioning what that is. But yeah, no, you're totally right. We need to probably word that a bit better and make that a bit a bit more well known. So no, that's great. I appreciate that, and that's something that we'll work on over the next couple of days and sort out.
All right. So I mean, we have another question here from TitanX. So I'm not sure if I understand this correctly, but he's asking, so the pairing ratio is based on day. I get it. Okay, I guess he understood that. What about the liquid? I don't understand that question. Do you understand it, Scotty?
The liquid.
What about the liquid?
No, I'm not 100% sure what it means.
But yeah, probably Ted, if you can rephrase that would be great, because I think we just went through this, so hopefully that is a bit clear. Maybe it was a few minutes earlier or something. I don't know. All right. Yeah, so I think, are you able to use them? Okay. Bad Sports is back. I think Bad Sports, you're back. Your internet had issues, I guess.
Yeah, literally just cut off.
No worries, man. All good. All right. I think so. We went through the Flux liquidity pool creation. And now let's go to the Flux buy and burn. I think it's pretty clear here regarding the liquidity pool here, because I think like Scotty was mentioning more the ratio with TitanX, although the reality is at the end of the day the pairing is going to be with Flux Inferno. I think that's why I was not able, like, I mean, I couldn't understand it, because it doesn't matter what the liquidity, like that ratio is on that day with TitanX. What matters is at the end what Inferno is going to be, because that's the pairing you're going to have essentially. But anyhow, let's go to the Flux buy and burn, because this is also interesting. But I think yeah, so this is somewhat buy and burn. This is like very similar to, let's say, DragonX per se, with a bit of twist as well, because DragonX, he uses the ETH because it buys TitanX first and then buys DragonX and burns it. But he is a bit more different. So just before we get started here, 36% of the TitanX from the auction gets sent to the buy and burn pool. And I guess this is a public callable function with an incentive fee. Is there incentive fee, by the way?
Yes, all the buy and burns are going to be publicly callable, and there'll be some nice.
How high is that?
There'll be some nice green buttons on the UI, and show all the information there that Blaze does. Very, exactly the same. And the reward fee.
Scotty, I'm gonna mute you. Yeah.
Yeah, mute Scott. The reward fee is 1.5%, same as what we've got with Blaze.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna write that 1.5%. So now I'll probably explain the viewers how this works out a little bit, because we first, since the Flux buy and burn has got TitanX, it needs to buy Inferno first. So probably can you explain here how this works exactly?
Yes, the 36% from the auction, from day 2 onwards, 36% of the TitanX in the auction buys Inferno. So you'll have a 36% amount of Inferno, and 20% of that 36% straight burns the Inferno. So it's an additional burn, an additional buy and burn on Inferno within the Flux buy and burn mechanic. So the remaining 80% of the Inferno from that transaction then buys Flux from the Inferno Flux LP and burns the Flux tokens.
All right. I think that's pretty much clear. So probably one of the other question is, how is the buy and burn regulated here?
In terms of?
I mean, we have TitanX, the buy and burn V1, V2. We have the Blaze buy and burn. Now we have this buy and burn. So how different is it, let's say, to, I don't know, TitanX buy and burn or Blaze buy and burn?
Yes. Okay. So the way it's set up is very similar to the Inferno buy and burn. So it's completely decentralized. The time and specific amounts that it burns is set from the start, and that's done by splitting the 24-hour value into 96 periods, which is every 15 minutes, which is 96 periods. So if you're familiar with Inferno, that's every 30 minutes. And you have a period where you can call that. It can be called within that 30-minute time slot or period. And if it's not called, it rolls over and accumulates into the next period. So it's the same as the Inferno buy and burn. It's fully decentralized. The only admin privilege on that is the slippage, and that is purely, as we went into depth with Blaze and Inferno, is that it's the safest and it's the best way forward is that someone can actually change that slippage in case price volatility stops the buy and burn going through. You want someone from the founding team to be able to make that slippage higher and allow for the buy and burn to continue. I think what's important is the slippage can never be changed to 0. So there's a 2% a 2% minimum limit, which can never be changed down. So it can never be turned off in that sense. So fully decentralized, same as how we've always gone with our protocols up to now.
All right, fantastic. So it's gonna be every 15 minutes, as you said, right? Is that correct?
Yes, 15
Okay,
minutes.
and how high is the buy and burn then? Like how much of the amount is going to be allocated for those 15 minutes?
So it's a 24-hour snapshot. So when say day 3 turns into day 4, there'll be a snapshot of the amount of value in the different buy and burn pools, and that will be split between 96 periods, which is every 15 minutes for the next 24-hour period.
Okay, but what is the snapshot? Like how is that calculated?
So when the auction turns over, there's in the auction contract, it will take a value of what's in there, what value's in there, how much TitanX essentially.
Okay, so and then it's just gonna distribute whatever is in currently there, and then to 96 periods then.
Exactly. Yep.
So essentially the whole 36% now.
Yes. Yep. For that 24-hour period.
Okay, so is the TitanX which is coming in on a daily basis gonna is distributed in those 96 periods, all of it?
Yeah. So whatever comes in day 2 can be used in day 3. Whatever comes in day 3 will be used in day 4, and that
So
continues.
100% of that value will be.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't roll over. There's no. There's no. I'll refer back to Inferno. So in Inferno, we have a rollover for the following week. So 55% is used and the rest rolls over. So in Flux, every 24 hours, whatever's in that pool is used for the following day, 100% of that pool.
All right. So that's fantastic. So the buy and burn essentially starts on day 2 then, right?
Yes. So the first day doesn't have any buy and burn pressure, and it becomes callable when day 1 of the protocol ticks over into day 2. Then the buy and burn becomes callable.
All right. Okay. That's that. I think that's good. That's good. Okay. So okay, because that's the thing which I think with Inferno I think when we had the interview, I was not 100% sure. I mean, I think it was a bit more. I didn't have the numbers in front of me. That's why it was a bit unclear. But this one is essentially much more easier because it's essentially 36% of the TitanX which came the day earlier will be distributed every 15 minutes for the next 24 hours.
Exactly. Spot on.
Yeah, and then essentially if it's not callable in that 15 minutes, it's just going to roll over to the next 15 minutes.
Yep. And again, if it's not called for that 15 minutes, if there's 2 or 3 calls, that'll just continue to accumulate.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, like we've seen.
Let me give you an extreme example then. I mean, which potentially probably will never happen, but let's say it's not called for 24 hours. Is it going to roll over to the next day as well?
That's a good
I
question.
mean, that's a very extreme situation.
That's a really good question.
Ask the devs.
Yeah, look, we haven't got into audit yet, so I'm sure that would be a question that would have got asked. So yeah, I'll write that down and make sure we get that looked at in the morning.
Yeah. You don't want your TitanX just be sitting there and not doing anything.
Yeah, I
Get
mean, like I
distracted.
said, it's a very niche issue, but it could happen. It's not impossible. So yeah, with this stuff, you've got to really look for even what you think is impossible could happen. So you've got to make sure that there's something there to protect you from that.
Absolutely.
Great point, Mike. I like that one.
Yeah. No worries. I think I think for now I think it's pretty much clear, it seems to me, rather, that is like, I mean, probably just for the viewers out there, can you probably just do a little recap so that people actually understand? It's like, okay, probably start from, okay, why should they participate in this protocol? Why is it different than others? Why should they care?
Why should they care? I think because it gives really exciting arb opportunities where you've got really vast amounts of value getting put back into the chart. But you've also got that stickiness of the auctions where, you know, people keep coming back. They want to try and take some profit from that daily event. But with this, we've tried to focus it on buy pressure. We've put as many tokenomics as possible that put the value back into the chart. And yeah, for me, it just shouts massive arb opportunities. I think it's going to be a real high ROI protocol. The staking's there. The staking's going to be great, but I think more so it's really about this buy pressure going into the chart. And I think, you know, have a look at Inferno, and it's pretty impressive how it's reacted over the last 5 weeks. If we can see something like this on a 24-hour period, with that potential for people to just come in and take nice profits and get back into the system, I think there's it's a game like everything, right? But it's an exciting one.
Fantastic. I mean, one of the things as well is like when people claim the TitanX in the payout pools, they can go back and participate once again, right?
Yeah, and I think them pools are going to be really interesting. You know, it's like Helios. You know, them pools may not look huge now, but you know, the potential of the run that TitanX could have, them pools could be serious. You know, could be really, really serious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that's definitely interesting. I think this protocol has a lot of mechanics. I think if you participated in TitanX, so you know how the payout pools works. I mean, also in Blaze is very similar, I guess, but this is now right. I mean, you have the auction system, so there's no mining essentially, but you don't use ETH. You're using your TitanX, which I mean, some of the miners are ending currently, so maybe that's something you want to participate in this project. So anyway, Bad Spots, I think that's pretty much it from my side. Is there anything else you like to mention?
Yeah, I think we've probably not covered. I mean, look, we looked into the liquidity pool and we ran through the mechanics of it, but I think one of the key parts of this protocol is that it's paired with Inferno, and you know, just look at how DragonX has responded to some price action recently. These are, you know, hyper deflationary tokens with potential of huge amounts of buy pressure on them. So that was the main choice, was to go with Inferno, and Inferno is tracking TitanX to an absolute T. It, you know, almost outperforming it on days, and the fact that we can pair to that and buy and burn it in huge amounts, I think, is probably the most exciting part of it for me.
All right, yeah, fantastic. So guys, that's what we had here. We had the Bad Spots in the house. Please follow them on X. I think it's DeFi. What happened to your Twitter account, by the way? There was I had one link, but it was not working.
Yeah, so it was yesterday afternoon. I was just about to share a video and went to press post, and I got a message saying the account was suspended. I have no idea. Nothing was shared on there untoward. No idea. So either some disgruntled community members, or just X has just saw something it didn't like and just suspended the account. And yeah, I've appealed. They've come back to me and said that it's suspended indefinitely. So
Really?
I don't know. I have no idea why. But within 10 minutes, I set up a new account and we're almost back up to the same numbers we was 24 hours ago. So yeah, pretty happy about that.
Damn, Elon. What are you doing, man? My man Elon is rugging us, man. That ain't cool. Anyhow, guys, so just follow follow Flux and Bad Sports on x.com, DeFi Flux, and then also on Telegram as well. If you have any other questions, thank you for all being here, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Cheers, Mike. Appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
No worries, man. So